everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. Welcome back to another episode of Debunking Gun Myths. So we got a pretty good one here today. You guys read the title. You saw the thumbnail. Let's get into it. As you guys can see, we are clear. There's no doubt about that there. So, on this episode of Debunking Gun Myths, Glock triggers are horrible. They are trash. They need to be changed. Here's where you're wrong. I'm going to prove to you exactly how you're wrong. So, for example, there's a Glock 23 right here. You guys know my Glock 23 Gen 3. Nothing special about it, Let's take a look at that trigger right here. All right. Nothing super heavy, nothing super special either. Let's take a look at the reset. Trigger reset's not bad. It's not bad, not the best that I've ever felt, but not bad. Now, for example, let's take another gun, for example. We'll take my Taurus G2C, my carry gun right here. Chamber is clear, as you guys can see. This is another gun right here that people say often has a terrible trigger. Let's compare it. All that take up, and then bam. Ready? Lighter, but has a poor, that's gave y'all a bad way of seeing it right there. There we are. See what I mean? Poor reset, not that great of a trigger. I mean, look, I love this gun. It just doesn't have the best trigger, which is perfectly fine. That's not a big deal here. Neither of these triggers are necessarily horrible, though. I feel like people don't understand what a horrible trigger actually is and what it actually consists of. Glocks have what I would at least deem as pretty standard triggers. There's nothing that's too heavy about them. They're not super light. They're definitely not any form of 1911 or 2011 triggers or anything like that. They're not any, standard Glock triggers are not race triggers or anything along those lines. However, they work very well. You can still draw, present, aim, shoot, and as long as you're not sitting there, limp wristing your shit or anything along those lines where you're not having enough control on the firearm to get your shots on target and not dip, as long as you have a good, firm combat grip, it shouldn't be an issue. I feel like one of the reasons why people say, well, here's the truth of the matter. This talk about, oh yeah, Glocks have terrible triggers, from what I know, that originally started all because of people trying to argue what's better, a Glock or a 1911. And I mean, I hate to break this to y'all, but a Glock any day of the week. I have multiple reasons to explain why. However, this was an argument that was made by 1911 guys saying, oh, you can't hit anything with those because of how terrible the trigger is. The trigger is so horrible. I've heard even people try saying the trigger is like broken glass, is what people have tried commenting and saying before. If you can't shoot properly, just say that, guys. I hate to break it to you, but if you cannot shoot properly, just say that. Glock is basically the gold standard of guns. It is, I mean, I hate to say it. Of course, Glocks are not perfect by any standard. However, they are 100% the standard when it comes to reliability, when it comes to being most well-known, most sold, most used in duty. I don't know what we're even trying to argue here. If the gun works that well in every other way, and your only argument is that the trigger's bad, maybe you're just trying to overcompensate for something that's a little better than what you're arguing for. That's just the truth of the matter here. This argument solely came from 1911 guys who can't shoot properly. Now, it's continued on because of people who simply are what I call trigger snobs. They sit here and believe, oh yeah, well, if you're not running, a half a pound trigger on your concealed carry, then you're just going to miss every shot. You won't get anything on target. Like, I'm sorry, but some of us can still hit our targets without needing a super special, super light trigger with the slowest reset. Actually, a lot of us prefer it that way. Now, that's already just where the argument came from and how that's just a dumbass argument itself, considering as long as you practice, you can draw, aim, shoot pretty quickly while still keeping your sights on the target without dipping. All you have to do is have a good grip on it. That's simply it. Now, since I just completely debunked that part of, just giving you guys the information of where it came from, I guess, and debunking the general idea that it came with originally, I want to go into why you should not change your Glock triggers. And this is a big deal that a lot of people, they don't like to account for when they're sitting there looking at their guns, thinking about upgrading. And I've actually spoken about this on the channel a couple of times before, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I know I've at least spoken about it once, so there's that. But long story short, do not change out your Glock trigger for, a lighter trigger, anything along those lines. One of the reasons why I simply say that is because anything affecting what makes the gun go boom, all right, meaning if it can fuck with the slide going into battery, so, if you get an aftermarket barrel that won't feed, there's that. A trigger that, one, is going to require a new firing pin along with it, because not everybody's shit is going to work completely. It's going to cause a lot of reliability issues. I've seen a lot of people sit there and say how, oh, well, my shit works perfectly fine with this special trigger. It's, oh yeah, I have a binary trigger on mine even. All you're doing is just risking reliability. It's not worth it. It's not, just because your trigger is a tiny bit lighter doesn't mean you're going to be that much quicker. Yes, it can help bad shooters. It can help bad shooters to have, a lighter trigger in there with a shorter reset. Sure. However, just understand, if it doesn't come stock with the gun, you are risking reliability by putting an aftermarket part there. You are running the risk of lowering the reliability of a Glock. You got to think about this. Glocks, guys, you can literally run thousands of rounds through them without cleaning them, without oiling them. They are that reliable. You're fucking with the reliability of literally the standard of stone cold reliability. That's the problem. So when people make this argument that, oh, Glock triggers are terrible, they need to be changed out, all I'm hearing is, I'm used to having a cheat code. I'm used to having a shortcut. I'm used to 1911 triggers. I'm used to something that's lighter. Look, if you're used to that, that's fine. There are options out there for you. But when you sit there and say Glocks suck because the triggers are horrible and you have to change them out, well, then guess what? You're changing them out on your own accord, by your own choice, because you're not willing to learn to get better with these triggers. And then since you're changing it out, you're fucking with the reliability. All you're doing is screwing yourself over in the long run. There's nothing you're doing that's going to improve on it at this point, considering the fact that this gun has been the way it is for decades. If you guys haven't noticed, Glock is almost like Apple. They make very minute changes to their models through each generation and release it. Very minute changes. They don't want to change too much of the major shit because all of the major shit already works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If Glock themselves wouldn't want to put a better trigger in there, considering the fact that it could fuck with reliability issues, because one, that's just not how Glocks have been made. They weren't made with that style of trigger where it's going to be that much lighter with a better reset. Look, if they can make it that way, I'm pretty damn sure they would start doing so, considering the fact that a lot of people want it. But the aftermarket triggers are not going to work. They're not going to sit here and do what you need out of them, considering a majority of them are going to fuck up the reliability on your Glock. So you put yourself in this own situation of saying, oh, I don't like Glock's triggers. Instead of fixing that, getting used to them, training with them even, I'm going to go ahead and sit here and change it out. You're not, look, guys, I hate to break it to you. It's not, as easy as, field stripping your gun like that. Oh yeah, change out the recoil spring, throw in a new one. It's not as quick as that right there to go ahead and take out your trigger, put in a whole new one, and you're good to go. It's not that quick. You see what I mean? But with that being said, I think that about wraps it up for this video. Overall, this was simply a gun myth that was pushed by 1911 people who are very mad that a lot of times you're going to run through more than 8 rounds of ammo. That's just the truth of the matter here. Now, with that being said, y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And because you agree with me, Glock triggers are not bad. You just are bad with them if you don't like them. I'm not saying you have to love them. I'm not saying they have to be your favorite trigger in the world. All I'm saying is that it is a pretty standard trigger weight of between 5 to 6 pounds or 5.5 to 6.5 pounds. One of the two. I could be one of the two. My whole point is that it is a very standard trigger weight. And for you to suggest that it is extremely heavy when there are double action revolvers out there, there are fucking hell. There's even the Beretta M9 variants when they're in double action. Extremely heavy triggers is absolutely ludicrous. The Glock does not have a heavy trigger. If you think it has a heavy trigger, that just means you are bad at shooting it. If you agree with me, make sure to check out all my other videos. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.